These two 3x3s are used by Max and Timon, whilst these two are some of the favourites among the cubing community. But which one is the best? Well, after battling each of them in an elimination format, we will find the winner. And they will be going against each other in a best of 3 system, where if a cube wins 2 of the categories, it moves on to the next round. Those categories are features, value, and performance. So the first round starts with the GuHong Pro M versus the WeiLong version 9. In terms of features, both of these cubes aren't too good. I mean, neither of them have adjustable magnets of any sort. Both have a standard ball core, and the tensioning systems aren't anything to celebrate either. I mean, the WeiLong still requires you to hope you've got equal settings on all 6 sides, as it uses a screw, whilst the GuHong isn't actually a dual adjustment system. However, I do prefer having more choice over my setup, and so the WeiLong is currently leading this category. And so if I put these cubes back together, you can see that they both have UV coating. And now, this is a good feature. The issue is though, it doesn't come standard on the WeiLong, as you have to pay slightly more if you want this extra grip. Regardless, due to how basic the tensioning system is on the GuHong and the lack of any other notable features, I am saying that this first category goes to the WeiLong version 9. So now moving on to value, and we will start with the GuHong. This cube is incredible for what you get. Not only is it one of the best I have ever tried at this price, it also feels really good, which is something that not a lot of budget cubes have. However, one thing that is very noticeable on this cube is the plastic feels cheap. Especially when solving, you can tell that Diane compromised this in order to get the price down. Nonetheless, I would still say that considering it is just £15, the GuHong Pro is pretty good value. But onto the WeiLong version 9, and this cube comes in at over double the price. But like I mentioned in the last category, there aren't too many notable features on this cube, which means that you are paying a lot more for something that might not have much extra to give. However, I massively prefer how much more premium the plastic feels on this cube. Therefore, meaning turns have a sense of superiority compared to the GuHong. The issue is, at £30, I'm not sure that just a little bit of better plastic is worth it. And for that reason, I'm giving this category to the GuHong Pro, which means that it's all tied up going into the decider. So this one is all about which one has better performance. The price is no longer considered in this section. It is just based on which I would rather solve on if I needed good results and could only choose one. First up, the WeiLong. The strengths of this cube is its stability and reliability. You can trust it to rarely have issues, which means that the times are usually very consistent. This means that I don't have to worry about corner twists, pops, or an over rotation during the solves. However, this amount of control is also the WeiLong's biggest downfall, and that is because the corner cutting is pretty lackluster on this cube. Therefore, to perform well, it is a requirement to have somewhat accurate turning, and to not rely on the correction of inaccuracy being done for you. The result of this is that I often lock up when I'm not turning very well, and this can completely ruin a solve. So there are definitely good positives and bad negatives. But moving on to the GuHong's performance. If we take the cheap plastic out of the equation for just a second, the overall feeling is very nice, and I think this is mainly due to how Diane designed the internal pieces of their cubes. Obviously, this is most apparent on something like the Tengian. However, the soft and smooth turns are also noticeable here. The result of this is that the solves feel very fluid and mistakes are pretty infrequent. For me, this is something that I really enjoy because of how inaccurate my turning can often be. The issue is that this cube can get a little bit too flexible. I think that the ball core helps to combat this, but it is still something that can cause issues. So my overall thoughts is that it's a shame that the plastic isn't very good because of how nice this cube could be if that wasn't an issue. But regardless of this, I would still say that I prefer to solve on the GuHong, which means it moves into the final. Sadly, the WeiLong's best quality, being stability, is also its worst. And so moving over to the second bracket, and I've already covered this battle before in another video, but in case you haven't seen it, I will summarize it right now. And like before, first up we have the features. Just taking out a couple of pieces this time, the first thing that you will notice is that they both have corner-to-core magnets. This is really good because it allows them both to have an extra amount of stability. However, where GAN pulls ahead is that it allows you to adjust these magnets, whilst the Tornado only allows adjustments of the regular edge to corner piece magnets. On top of this, the ones in the corner for GAN are also a lot longer, which means that you feel them pull a lot earlier, leading to more stability. Moving to under the center caps now, and they both genuinely have really good tensioning systems. I think that the Tornado's is better, but overall I think GAN has better features, which means that it wins the first category, which means that we now move on to value. And just showing the prices of these two cubes, the Tornado easily wins this section. The 12 really needs to be a lot cheaper to be anywhere close, which means that it's a draw going into performance. And whilst it's pretty close between these two, as they both have outstanding corner cutting, stability and speed, I think that the Tornado does feel nicer when turning. Overall, it's a lot smoother and much more forgiving on mistakes than the GAN 12 is. Therefore, I find that I lock up less with this cube, which helps to maintain pretty consistent times throughout a session. So that brings us on to the final round, and this is where it starts to get really interesting. Can a £15 cube outperform a £35 flagship, or will the Tornado once again come out on top? Well, much like before, we will begin with the features. Taking a look at the inside, and we can see that they are pretty similar, with both having a ball core. However, looking at the edge pieces, you can see that the magnets on the Tornado are adjustable. This means that you have a much wider range of feelings that can be achieved with this cube over the GuHong. Similarly, the tensioning systems are very different in that the Tornado allows for 25 different options, whilst the GuHong only has 5. And that's pretty much the decider. But where the GuHong does beat the Tornado is that you get UV coating as a standard on this cube, whereas you have to pay more for it to be included on the version 3. This is sort of moving on to value, so let's talk about that. Obviously, with the Tornado, you are getting what you pay for, in that there are so many different ways that you can adjust this cube so that it will always fit your style. Therefore, this is often the go-to that I recommend to other cubers, because it has the highest likelihood of being suitable for them, regardless of their preferences. On the other hand, at just £15, the GuHong Pro is a great cube, and so whilst you don't get loads, the GuHong has to win this round, just because of how good it is for such a low price. And finally, moving on to performance as the decider of this entire battle, and because I've already covered these cubes individually, this part will be head to head. So if we start with the corner cutting, the GuHong is pretty decent. However, I don't think that it's anywhere near smooth enough to compete with the Tornado. This cube is so fluid and it can fix mistakes from pretty much anywhere. However, if we now go on to stability, whilst the Tornado is good, I still do have moments where the cube gets uncontrollable, which can cause the times to be ruined. Whereas the GuHong rarely has those issues, and in general, the feeling is slightly more stable. I mean, it is still flexible, but so much less so than the Tornado. And finally, most important of all, the overall feeling is that I just prefer the turning and performance on the Tornado, and so it wins this entire battle. But wait, that's just what I think, and you might completely disagree. So by leaving a comment, you can either vote for the GuHong Pro M or the Tornado, and I will count up each one and leave the results in the pinned comment. This will also be edited frequently to keep up to date with all of the new votes. So let me know what you think. If you have enjoyed this, then drop a like, make sure to subscribe, and you can watch any of the individual reviews here. Thank you for watching.